with CM Punk trending for telling off fans and Vince McMahon's plan to turn John Cena heel revealed. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for January 12th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Roman Reigns has been the Universal Champion for a long time now. With Brock Lesnar having a Universal title reign of 503 days, Roman is catching up, with Wrestle features noting, "Congrats to Roman Reigns. He's hit 500 days as Universal Champion. He is just days away from becoming the longest reigning Universal Champion of all time." Talking to Chris Van Vliet about his time in WWE, Karrion Kross noted that he would be open to returning under the right conditions. "I wouldn't be surprised. I, respectfully, wouldn't go back under these same circumstances just out of a logical standpoint. I definitely think I would be interested in a lot more certain things. I think one of my biggest mistakes in general was, I do pride myself on being a pleasure to work with whatever is I'm doing. I like to create that good energy that goes around, and oftentimes I probably should be a little more assertive when I think something is a bad idea. But I think this time around, with this particular situation, I was really concerned about possibly having to go back out there into a national economy which, for lack of better words, is still recovering. I think about my family. I think about people that I need to take care of, that I want to take care of. I think about my future, and working for WWE was the best place to be, secure, stuff like that." During that same interview, Kross would speak about his feud with Jeff Hardy. With them both having been released by WWE, Kross revealed that Jeff wanted to have a TLC match at a pay-per-view to cap off their rivalry. "I wish more people got to see longer matches with Jeff Hardy and I. If people got into, and if him and I got to go to Extreme Rules and we had our TLC match, both of us really wanted it. We would have shown fans something you had not seen in a long time." Speaking about his previous stablemate from NXT, Johnny Gargano told Comic Book that Austin Theory can make WWE a lot of money. "It feels like Austin just kind of went from me being his father figure to Vince McMahon now being his father figure. But yeah, it's wild, man. I'm so happy for him, because he does work really, really hard. And Austin and Indy Hartwell both, it was always my mission this past year to put them in a position to where they could be superstars. And they're so young, and they're so talented, the both of them. And I feel like WWE is such a goldmine in Austin and Indy that I hope they take advantage of it, because I feel like they can make that company a lot of money for many, many years." But yeah, it's cool to see. Given Theory's segments with Vince McMahon, many expect big things to come for the young star. As for Gargano, it remains to be seen what's next for him following his departure from WWE. Becky Lynch went from the man to big-time Bex, but not without controversy, as the Nature Boy laid claim to the title demand, even threatening WWE with legal action. Talking about this on his podcast, Flair took a shot at the promotion for letting Lynch use his trademarks. "Ultimately, the people that did that to me need to look in the mirror and know that I worked my whole career for that to belong to my daughter or my son. They need to look at themselves in the mirror. They have to say to themselves, boy, he took something that he worked his whole life, his butt off for, every day, made a joke of it, and gave it away." Also on his podcast, Ric Flair made his feelings known about WWE President Nick Khan, saying Khan buried him before he left the company. "We did not have the same vision for me." And then Nick Khan makes it personal, "Just because I no longer wanted to work there, and I wanted to do things like this so I can reflect on my career. Nick just decides to bury me. I need someone to explain this to me. How on God's green earth do you take the Flairs, take that brand, and not make it a fixture of that company?" Former UFC and current Bellator Women's Featherweight Champion Cris Cyborg put out a tweet yesterday saying that a female AEW wrestler came to her MMA gym that morning and challenged her to a closed-door match, which she apparently accepted. When AEW on TV responded asking who it was, Thunder Rosa would reply to both with eyeball emojis. With Cyborg attending SmackDown back in December and talking about doing something for AEW, it remains to be seen if she steps foot into a pro wrestling ring. With WWE releasing so many talent and backstage personnel, John Cena suddenly rich eyes and showed that he sympathizes with those being let go. They're also quite bullish on continuing to hire new talent, so the NXT Performance Center is, I do not want to say overwhelmed, but they were at max capacity. So you have all of these performers, and a lot of them are not getting a chance to perform. And I think that's the real frustrating thing, both to the WWE and from a stance of a performer. I was brought up in biannual cuts, and it happened all the time, and I just think WWE went through such a long period of not releasing anybody, and now the company is going back into that rhythm again, that it is a very abrupt shift to somebody who's not familiar with that, and I do. My heart goes out to everybody who has to get that sad news, because that's a tough conversation to have. Speaking of Cena, he would make his return to WWE in July at Money in the Bank as he got involved in a feud with Roman Reigns. This would lead to the two of them main eventing SummerSlam over the Universal title. Talking about this run, Cena noted on the Pat McAfee show that he was surprised by the fan reaction. Summer of Cena to me, I was genuinely surprised at every single arena I went to, because it's usually a lot more, as Michael Cole would say, polarizing than that. So that was kind of my first experience where I would say a majority of the audience appreciated my presence there, because normally that is not the case. You try to go out and play a character of virtue, a character with the virtuous foundation, and people tell you to fuck off. The fans really would tell me that, and that's an interesting combination. I think that's what makes WWE beautiful in the live audience so special, is because they decide how they feel about characters. Cena would also say that he loves the challenge that a comeback presents. What brings me back to WWE is not the falling down. It is not necessarily the improvement of physical skill, it's the storytelling that brings me back. I like being able to tell a story with Roman Reigns. I love the challenge of telling a story, and acting is literally just being able to change characters whenever you want and tell a new story. Also on the Pat McAfee show, Cena recalled his infamous rivalry with The Rock. Cena revealed that Vince McMahon was considering turning him heel against the Great One during their WrestleMania 28 feud. I remember Vince toyed with the idea of turning me heel versus The Rock in Miami. I said no problem, I understand, I'll do it. Just remember that we are so deep in at this point that we can't do it, and then jump back because we'll be sunk at both ends. If we do it, I have to be the opposite of virtue. I have to be the pure evil and we'll go all in. From a believability standpoint, people always see me in uniform because I want people to know that what they see is someone they can relate to. He decided against it, and at that point he said, I don't think we're ever going to do it. Coming off back-to-back losses to Becky Lynch over the Raw Women's title, Liv Morgan looks to be out of the title picture. With Becky looking to face the new #1 contender in Doudrop, Morgan spoke on the Wrestling podcast about her performance against Lynch at the Day 1 pay-per-view, as she feels she delivered in that bout. I definitely feel like I delivered. The main event of Raw felt like the biggest match of my career. It was the 17-year anniversary of Trish and Lita main event, and we got to kind of mimic that. I got texted by Trish, which was such an insane moment for me, because I grew up idolizing her. She's considered like the biggest, most popular female wrestler of all time. That felt super huge to me, and I was like, I don't know if I'll ever have a moment like this again. Fast forward to a couple weeks later, and here I am opening the first pay-per-view of the new year. Not only the first of the new year, but the first of its kind. We were the only women's match on the card, and it was for the title. I just knew I had to deliver and bring my A game. I feel like I did that, and I feel super satisfied, which I never do. I never feel satisfied or like I did good enough. I know that sounds very negative. I don't mean it in that way, but I watched the match back, and I loved it more watching it back than I did in the moment, which is super rare for me. That's how I know I did a good job. CM Punk would take to Twitter yesterday to say, still in a pandemic. If you're waiting in an airport to get stuff signed, you need to stop doing that. This would lead to a user replying to Punk with a gif of him jumping into a crowd at an AEW show, saying, "This you?" Punk responded, "Sure is me," at a show. Post-vax, pre-Omicron, had to show proof of vax to gain entrance. Not stalking anyone at an airport or hotel. How stupid are you? This would cause Punk to trend on Twitter. So here's some of the reactions from fans. I think it's bad to do it at airports and shows, but some wrestlers don't care like Edge and CM Punk, but it bugs me he's using the COVID card to make the other people come off as a-holes, when he said before he doesn't like taking pictures with fans unless they're kids. Maybe you, but most of people would read that tweet and think, wow, CM Punk had a great connection with his fans, and move on. Do you really? Most people would tweet him saying, ew, Punk, you need to stay away from fans. Save those times for when they pay $200 at Comic-Con. Of course, this is the only thing nerd fans of AEW and WWE like take umbrage with. The one thing CM Punk is absolutely right about, just ridiculous. CM Punk gets angry at someone stalking him, and the WWE drones come out of the woodworks to make fun of him. AEW is rent-free in the minds of people who don't like it. With Dynamite tonight, AEW President Tony Khan would take to Twitter to tease a surprise for fans as he wrote, "It's Wednesday." You know what that means. Wednesday Night Dynamite tonight on TBS. You stepped up for us last week. Thanks to your support, we had a huge debut on TBS, and we're back tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern with big matches, big moments, and maybe a surprise for you. The Bella twins have been announced to be making their return during the Women's Royal Rumble, as Nikki noted on the Bella's podcast that she could have more matches after the event as well. It's always fun to have surprises. My guess is there's still going to be surprises. I have no idea. People ask if it's a comeback. The greatest thing about WWE and big pay-per-views like the Rumble is you can come back for one great night and have fun. In the world of any professional sport, people always make comebacks. But what's beautiful about WWE is that we can make comebacks as many times as we want as long as our bodies let us and doctors let us. I've officially got cleared. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.